Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Don, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Good monotonic tone, but it's better than last week's monotonic tone.
Thank you.
All right. You know what's interesting? I forgot my pad at home. So I'm going to be doing the blog of the week and the show from a phone.
I would say tablet, but
yeah, you're right. Tablet. The other one is specific to Apple, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I forgot my tablet, and we are going to have a great show.
That's right.
How was your week, my friend?
It was a week.
It was a week.
Yep.
And you did just fine, right?
I survived.
You
I'm
survived.
here.
Well, anyhow, we're going to have a great show today. You know, this is going to cover something that happened in New Jersey. And we're going to talk about how this, let me tell you something, Donna. You know, I do a whole lot of writing at Op-Ed News and Daily Kos and all these other progressive sites, right? And anytime I write something about Democrats at these progressive sites, what happens a lot of times is I get a lot of pushback because I hit the Democratic Party very, very hard at times. Justifiably, I think, and I think a lot of people think justifiably as well. Well, one of the problems you have is a lot of these things are kind of nebulous, right? And when they're nebulous, what happens is people can look at them in one or two ways and say, that's not right. You're just coming to conclusions. What occurred in New Jersey is the perfect example of what's going on. But before we go, I'd like to tell all the folks that are on Facebook Live that are to please go ahead and share this program right away. Why do we want you to do that? Because of algorithms. Algorithms demand that you go ahead and tell folks you like what you're hearing. So please, folks, go ahead and share this program right away if you are listening on Facebook Live. Of course, we're on air live at 90.1 FM in Houston. What are the other stations that we're at again?
We're at 89.5 in Galveston. That's about it.
That's about it? Okay, so the one in Livingston is not up? You don't know. Anyhow, we have a whole lot of, we're all over East Texas, North, South, everywhere. Anyhow, we have quite a bit of listeners, folks. Anyhow, the title of the show today is New Jersey Democrats, Flawed Democratic Establishment. And the subtitle of the show, The Democratic Party establishment and the Republican Party establishment are nothing more than the left rail and the right rails of the same track. Now, look, folks, for those of you that are listening, those of you that are just coming in, I want to make one thing clear to you. Those that are Democrats, those that are progressives, we're not talking about you. You are the foot soldiers. You're the folks going out there and doing the work. But there are folks out there that's hindering the work that you're doing. And that is what we have to take care of. That is what we have to make known. That is what we're trying to get out there as in right now. So anyhow, if real Democrats and progressives are to win elections, they must first expose the shenanigans of the Democratic Party establishment. They must then extricate that cancer from within. New Jersey Democrats recently got full control of their state government. Now that it is time to act against many in the plutocracy, guess what the Democratic Party establishment Democrats did? We cover that in the blog of the week. But before I get to the program, I want to remind all my listeners that we are KPFT, a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are Think Wing Radio with
Mike Honig on Mondays at 2 p.m.
Of course, we have Open Journal with
Dwayne Bradley and crew on Mondays at 6 p.m.
And we have Jazz Latino, Afro-Cuban Latin Jazz at its very best, hosted by
Juan Flores on Tuesdays at noon.
And I love my Gender Asian Radio. Tell me more.
You can't read all that?
A weekly radio program featuring an eclectic mix of Asian underground, Bhangra, Bollywood funk, Hindi, Rai, where ancient sounds meet what?
Future Beats, Thursdays, 12 to 2.
And we have Really, but not really
on Thursdays at 10 p.m. with Rosemont and Marcel Monroe.
And do we do the other two?
Nope.
Okay, good.
But we have one that you keep forgetting.
Which one is that?
Border Radio, coming out right after this.
Border Radio is right after this with Susan. And I mean, I am talking music, folks. I'm talking good music. Anyhow, folks, check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics to medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is a listener-supported public community radio station. So please remember that if you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by whom?
The corporatocracy.
Absolutely so, folks. So what are your thoughts? Please do remember, folks, go ahead and like the Politics Done Right page with Egberto Willies on Facebook. Politics Done Right on Facebook. Please go ahead and like that page. And please follow Egberto Willies on Twitter. Folks, I can tell you, we have a lot happening. We have a lot that will be happening, and we want to hear from you. After the blog of the week, we want you to remember to call. This is a call-in show, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. So I think it's about that time. So, folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay. The title of the blog post, and it's a bit lengthy, so I'm going to kind of go through it, and sometimes I kind of improvise on it as well. It's going to be dropping at the Daily Coast on Sunday. I don't know what time they're going to schedule it on Sunday, but it'll be at dailycoast.com, and then it'll be at my website 2 days after that. It's quarantined at my site right now. Here it goes. I've always said that the Democratic Party establishment and the Republican Party establishment were nothing more than the left rail and the right rails of the same track. And what do we know about that track? They move in the same direction. To be clear, the rank and file of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are very different. The far right has taken over the rank and file of the Republican Party, and now the Republican establishment, progressives, and the Republican establishment. Progressives, however, for some time have been the rank and file of the party. This manifestation can be seen in the Democratic platform and in the policies the party supports, especially when in the minority. But they have never taken over the Democratic establishment. So unlike the Republican Party, who has taken over the entire Republican Party, rank and file, and the establishment, Democrats have always owned the rank and file. We've always been fairly progressives in the rank and file. But it is the establishment that sort of, they're the big daddy, the ones who run everything, right? And we've allowed that. Many Democrats get upset when one airs out some of these issues. They immediately go on the defensive as if having a healthy dialogue can be anything but positive. One of the problems in this country is that many are comfortable with the status quo. Many want the safety of a conflictless existence, at least in their own sphere. The reason we still have all the isms and phobias, problems, like racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, etc., 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 problems is that while we talk a lot about it superficially, rarely is a dialogue made more than antiseptic. So we got to make these dialogues a hell more than just antiseptic dialogues, folks. But anyhow, well, New Jersey has given us an opportunity to explore the core of the Democratic Party. I mean, they have given us the opportunity to explore the core of the Democratic Party establishment versus the progressive contrast. It is a pattern that repeats itself over and over at various levels. A Think Progress article appeared in my feed that gave me pause. The title, The Democratic Governor of New Jersey Wants a Tax Hike on Millionaires. Democrats are blocking him. What? That could not possibly be true. During Chris Christie's reign, the Democrats, every time they had a budget to submit, remember it was controlled by Christie, a Republican governor, the Democrats were always ready to give him a budget that gave him that 2% tax hike on millionaires so that they could pay teachers more, so that they could do the right things. Remember, these millionaires, they extract a lot from society. So here's what the article says. When New Jersey, start, open quote, one of my callers yesterday said, Egberto, you need to tell us when you're open and closing quote. So you're absolutely correct, listener. Anyhow, open quote. When New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy campaigned on a proposal to hike income taxes on the very rich, richest sliver of his state, he would have expected to find easy traction with state lawmakers. They had sent such a tax package to Murphy's predecessor, Chris Christie, Republican, half a dozen times in the preceding years, seeing it vetoed each time. But something funny happened on the way to the State House. Murphy's partisan allies flipped, suddenly blanching at the 2% point hike on income over $1 million that Murphy says would bring in $750 million in revenue. And State House Democrats aren't keeping their newfound disagreement inside the tent. Here's what they did, folks. They're actively collaborating with Christie, the ex-Republican governor, one of the Garden State most famous unemployed residents, to strategize against the new Democratic governor. So let me kind of explain that really quickly. What we have here is the Democrats who were always sending a 2% hike in income taxes on multimillionaires. They are now collaborating with the governor who used to veto all the bills they sent them so that he will help them create a veto-proof call-in in Congress. Think about that. We have Democrats aligning with Republicans against a progressive Democratic governor. And he ain't all that progressive anyway, but compared to them, apparently he is. So, I'm still within the quotes. Christie was overheard making calls to Republican lawmakers and telling them he was coordinating with State Senate President Stephen Sweeney, Democrat, to whip votes in favor of a tax plan that relies on short-term cash injections from corporations, taxes, and an amnesty program for people who owe the state money. So a lot of the people who generally owe the state a lot of money are kind of rich folk. So guess what they're getting now too, right? They instead of charging these taxes, they also want an amnesty, man. They also want an amnesty. Okay? An amnesty program for people who owe the state money. A fellow Amtrak passenger heard the former governor tell the lawmakers he was calling to feel out if they would support a budget veto override after Murphy said he would rather let the state government shut down than agree to drop the millionaire's tax to reflect Sweeney about face. In other words, the governor says, you know what? I want to show all our residents in New Jersey that you guys are a whole bunch of two-faced people. You Democrats, you establishment Democrats, you know the state needs money. You know you have a rich class. A lot of it, I always mention unearned, but a rich class. Okay? Now, back, close quote, by the way. Back to the right and left rail moving in the same direction. Is this not a perfect example? The left and the right rails, the Republican establishment and the Democratic establishment moving in the same direction. They are there to protect the wealthy, not you. I'm going to tell you a story about a conversation I had with a young lady in Starbucks yesterday after the blog, and I take a few phone calls. We can see these Democratic Party establishment on many other issues. The too small stimulus, Obamacare not even entertaining single-payer Medicare for all, and a forced ditch of the public option. I want to repeat that because people have to understand this. We can show several other examples, folks, where instead of the Democratic establishment going fully progressive so that things would go right, they decided to balk. The Democratic Party establishment on many other issues did the same thing. A stimulus in 2009 that was much too small, an Obamacare that wasn't single-payer healthcare for all, and not even a public option. At first, I believed it was Democratic timidity that prevented the policies mentioned above. But that's not it at all. Every one of those policies ultimately cost the wards of the plutocracy more than not. In other words, all these policies that we want are going to cost more to the super wealthy, okay? And a lot of people, when you start talking about the super wealthy, they say, well, you know, they earned all that money. Why are you going to take some of it? Look, no. We have an economic system that's not divine. It is man-made. An economic system is not divine. It is man-made. A stockbroker can own, shuffling a few papers, and suffices on $120,000 a year. Who is more? Who creates more? We have to understand worth. Wealth is what we have this economic system to provide in many cases. So I never care or never fret. Person saying, I've earned this money and now you want to take it away. No. Let's define an economic system and let's define worth. But that's not it at all. Every one of those awards of the plutocracy more than not. Ultimately, it costs. It is always about protecting that class. Both establishments and both at our expense, okay? And I'm going to divest. Tell you something, because a lot of people say, oh, they don't, you know, they have, no. We had from Donald Trump. They got monies three ways. Who got screwed? They actually, I'm going to show that it may even. Here's the deal. They brought back their monies to the country, all the foreign money that these corporations had on the outside. Folks, if you're in your car, if you're on Facebook Live, you to understand this, because a lot of people don't get it. They don't get how bad the tax cut scam was, because the media is telling you how bad it was, or it is. They got to bring back in monies, overseas monies that weren't taxed. They got in at a very reduced tax rate. Number one, it's monies that should have been in our treasury there. So that's numero uno. Remember, they bring that money. They claim they were going to recirculate that money into false. They gave a few bonuses so I could pick up that they gave a few bonuses. That's the only thing they did with it. Use the vast plurality of that money to do buybacks. What does that mean? They're going to, let me show you what stock buybacks mean. Stock buybacks mean this. Circulation with buybacks. It means the price of that gates. What that means is that stock price goes, the person who owns that stock is wealthier. They didn't give that stock, would have been taxed as regular money, right? Regular income. Coffers of government more money as well. But no, capital gains. So got screwed again. There's yet another way that even without that, the tax cut, when they people, we are going to cut your taxes and we give a whole bunch of money, there was no money to give the money or the people who got a lot of money. So that was more money out of the coffers. All right. They get it. They get the most of it. Now, in order for the country to continue running, that's number two. In order for the country to continue running, we have to borrow the money. Guess who has the money? The same people that got the tax cut. The money that we gave them in tax charge us interest on that money. And we do. So we also transfer. And it's not done yet. It's even deeper. In order to make the budget not as bad as it, they start to cut other programs like some supplemental funding to the Affordable Care Act, Medicare, to Social Security, and all these other programs. That stuff that for kids, I don't remember what it's called. Is that your healthcare cost in October bill? You're going to be shocked, because now that you got back the few people, the people that taxed for taxes, they see that money because it was at the expense for higher fees in parks. It was at the expense. So you middle class folks for Trump who believed you didn't only get screwed, you didn't only not the tax cuts you expected, you got, and the people that got the spoils were the owners of the healthcare company, people who are loaning us the money to keep the government working. Folks, it is a scam. I really want it. First of all, all members in my family that are right wing as well. Little segment that I just told to wing friends, it's imperative how much they've been screwed by the scam. It is real. It is absolutely real, because it's all written down. It's a bill, and it's not a bill. It's okay. So what we got, destruction of our economy to further transfer money upward. Now, I want to, before I continue with the blog, I have to, a lot of, including one of the women that I was speaking to. Oh, do you know that this quarter is going to be, the GDP is going to be almost 5%. I actually approach 3%. That is the best in probably. And everybody going to be excited. Oh, Trump has the economy going. Reagan, what I wrote a book called As I Wing Doom, and I explained what Reagan did. It wasn't magic. Growth. And the growth that worked better was under Clinton, where we taxed the rich so that that money will begin to circulate again. In the case of Reagan, what he did is he didn't tax the rich, and he didn't, but he just deficit spend. But what you budget first, and when you get that explosion in the budget, you get, of course, that's what, and that's the same thing that's going to happen on Trump. If I go ahead and I give a rich people a whole lot of money to make them feel richer so that they can all these things, you are going to get a huge GDP, but it's only temporary until the bill comes due. That is a we have. I had to digress from the blog to kind of that. Democrats know that as well. You wonder why the establishment continues to do what it does.
Well, this has been over and over and over. And we keep saying how the economy is booming, right? Economy is growing.
Yes.
Paychecks aren't. Like, they keep saying how the economy is growing.
Right.
That is not who have jobs that they have to work multiple jobs. That think economy is growing. They're thinking, oh, more and more people are getting able to live a life that's meaningful with the check. That's not what the economy growing is.
Here is a problem, though. Absolutely right. Phone's ringing, but you're absolutely right. And let me tell you. The problem is what Dan said about the checks not growing. But for all those people that want to have faith is a dangerous thing sometimes. They have faith that the economy is booming. Eventually, it'll get to them. No, based on trickle-down economics, based on Reaganomics, from that we are still. That's why wages have been stagnant for over 30 years. 90% of people. We know that. So, folks, with the blog so that I can get to the phones and then tell you a few stories of as far as everybody. But here it goes. A more massive stimulus economy roaring in 2010. As we fought for Obamacare, about their finances. If we had either single payer, a public option to the Affordable Care Act, as force in the hands of one of our largest welfare recipients, the pharmaceutical, Republicans would not have the ability to use the fallacy of Obamacare cost rise. I'm telling you, it's not about timidity. If they weren't protecting of the plutocracy, or rather, if they weren't protecting the plutocracy, if they weren't protecting the corporation, and they said, for once, we are going to be for our, the Republicans' rank and file. If they, for one, what would have happened is the economy would have boomed. In such a manner, it would have been a more equitably distributed boom that everybody felt, and then there would have not been, first of all, there would not have been a Donald. And secondly, under Obama's 2010 stuff, there would not have been a 2010 turnover. Stimulus is directly responsible. A lot of people won't tell you that. They won't tell you that. A timid, ridiculously low stimulus that was based highly on tax cuts, when we know tax cuts give you much less of a bang than spending. But anyhow, here are some controversial statements, folks. Listen to all Democrats. The Russian election of Donald Trump. To all my fellow Berniacs, less than optimal candidate for these times, Hillary Clinton. To my Hillary Clinton supporting brothers and sisters, the election. You know who cost us the election? It is us who continue to allow a party, the Democratic establishment, to dictate. Failure has come with no consequence enough that their consultants in the aggregate over the last decade loss of the majority of state houses and governorships. Ultimately, more than activate Democrats sitting on the sidelines. We must at large that we know share or values, but because of ideology, many are willfully on work that does not occur solely at election time, but it requires teaching our people that we can be part of civilly engaged. Let me stop there. Tell me what that means, Don.
Oh, add something to that, because
go ahead.
You said share our values.
Yes.
Talking to those people who share our values, they don't understand what our values are. Whenever a person, they have a job like a steel worker,
right?
Because of course the Republicans go, you know what, we're going to keep those jobs. Aren't jobs that are going to stick around regardless of what, over and over again. They don't understand that our quote unquote value. help them because we're not talking to them about, we need to help you get into a different
brother,
job.
you are right. Maybe I should have expanded what I said, because the woman that I was speaking with in Starbucks yesterday, that's pretty much what I want. Shared values, right? The reality, 90% of Americans share the same value. They are just, the plutocracy has just the fight among the different sects, but we share the same value. I think I got across that well to her yesterday, but anyhow, with that, and thank you for adding that, my brother. We must make the case to the population, we must make the case to the population at large that we know share our ideology. Many are willfully uninformed. It is hard work at election time, but continuously. We have a tendency to approach people. We have a tendency to wait. And election, that's not how you do it. You engage them. Believe it or not, that already works. Anyhow, it requires people that we can be partisan at the same time. It is not about having aha moments when engaging, but so that sometimes sprout when the right triggers come about at just the right time. We continue at a tipping point. The actions of some within the Democratic Party establishment run the risk of making 2018 2016. Using right-wing and coercive tactics against Laura Mosier and Levi Tilleman are not the answer. We need to stop investing in high-priced Democrats' hard-earned dollars. These need to be all communities. Democrats must tell Americans what they will do when elected. More importantly, they must force the establishment to be Democrats. They should of the platform, or feel free to join the party that equates to being the ward of the plutocracy, the Republican Party. Folks, our blog of the week. Now, comments, telephone number 713-526-5738. Again, that 526-5738. Let's see these things light up. How many of you agree? How many of you disagree? Any of you want to add stuff? Vic, on the line, talk to me.
Yes, good afternoon, Myrtle.
How you doing?
Doing good. Listen, I'm a truck money,
Uh-huh.
and when I did my taxes for last year, I really got back $10.
Wow.
And at the end of that, the IRS has the audacity to tell you, well, next year you're going to have to even owe more, so you're going to $600 in increments of 4 payments.
Right.
Well, yeah, your paycheck looks nice right now, but don't let that fool you.
Good right now, sir?
What's that?
You said something.
I said, our paychecks look good because they're not taking out as many slammed in the end.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen. Everything's good right now, or whenever the bill comes in.
Oh, yeah.
It may not be next year, years from now, but we're going to pay for it.
And right, my friend. Let me tell you something, Victor. Americans have this, right? It is imperative that we get the point across. I hope also, around when I gave how the rich got about 5 different times with this tax cut scam.
Yeah.
Most Americans don't have a clue as to how to percolate up the ladder, and it's been several different streams of income, right? And
right.
It is so important for folks to realize it. Take the numbers plus or minus a few, okay? But on average, what we have is that Americans, rather the economy itself, grows at between, let's say, 2 and 3% a year. And the wealth of the wealthy, right, grows at about 7 to 12% a year. And those numbers are fungible, of course, but that is a direction. What that tells you in a pie, it is only one pie, people. It is only one pie, period, punto final, one pie. So if somebody is growing at 7% and everybody else and the whole economy, if a few people are growing at 7% and the whole economy is growing at 2%, they're taking the money from you. It has nowhere else to come from. It's math. And that's what I try to impart on my brothers and sisters of all ideological persuasion. And what gives some bona fides as well, my friend, is that I'm not really just saying Republicans are the ones who caused this problem. I am saying that the kind of politics we have today is a politics that protects the rich. And may sound cliche, but that's what it is. And now we have to go out there and make sure we elect people that are going to pass the policies that not only make things, not only right sense our tax system, but also it has to take it back.
Right.
It has to take it back. Otherwise, it is legalized theft.
Yep.
Thank you so kindly for calling, Victor.
Thank you, Alberto, for listening.
You have a wonderful day, sir. Okay, let's go to David, line 4.
Hey, Alberto.
How you doing, sir?
Good to hear from you.
Great to hear your voice.
I wanted to make an analogy here, and then I wanted to tell you something that I heard on the radio yesterday.
Okay.
I think these things are important. Let's say you live in an environment where you are being bombarded and inundated by carcinogenic substances, and you contract cancer. And then someone comes along and tries to tell you that the reason why you have cancer is because it's your own damn fault, because you are not trying hard enough to avoid substances that give you cancer. How would you feel about that?
First of all, you'll feel cheated. You'll feel pretty darn mad because, again, you know better. I mean, you're in Houston?
Yes, I am.
Well, there's a part of Houston they call Cancer Alley, and we know why, right?
Well, I don't know how much time I have to make my appeal here on this call, but let me tell you why I'm making this. Because yesterday I was listening. Have you heard that show on this radio station? It comes on yesterday morning from 8 till 9. It's called Law and Disorder.
No, I don't. But tell us quickly about what you want to say.
Michael Radner used to run things. Okay, yesterday morning they had a fellow that I respect very greatly who commented on the show. His name is Mark Crispin Miller.
Okay.
And he was talking about our election system, and he made some references to the Supreme Court decisions concerning the Ohio situation.
Mm-hmm.
But here's something that he pointed out. Two very respected universities, Alberto, had done extensive research on 26 of the most developed nations on planet Earth in respect to their election systems, who had the most integral and reliable as opposed to who had the least integral and reliable. Guess who was dead last?
America.
That's right.
Of course.
Dead last, 26. Guess who was on top?
Please tell me. I don't know.
Venezuela. They had their election, and they were accused by the plutocrats in this country of running a scam election, but yet Harvard University and the University of Sydney, Australia, were the universities that did the research program to determine this thing, and David, they said that Venezuela was at the top.
David, it doesn't surprise me at all, because a lot of these countries in Central America are using new technology, and not only new technology, but retraceable technology, unlike us, who, when you put your stuff in these electronic machines, you don't know if it went in or not, or if somebody's playing, you don't know that. But here's the deal. Sometimes I get in a little bit of trouble with my Venezuelan friends, because a lot of them came over, a lot of them that are in the upper crust, if you will, came over to the States. They really didn't like Chavez. What I've always tried to tell them is Chavez was the creation of the condition of the place. In other words, you can't be swimming in oil and at the same time your population is poor. Something has to give, and those people who got got all the spoils, some of them were going to have to give it back. Thank you so kindly for calling, David. You have a great day. Okay, I'm going to Teray, and then it's going to be Scott and Johnny. Let's get to Teray. Teray, come on in, Teray.
Hi, this is Tori. I wanted to talk about the current state of capitalism.
Yes.
Basically, capitalism is all about supply and demand, right? There has to be shortages in order for there to be demand, in order to make profit. And shortages are basically chaos. And so we see that, you know, the general, any kind of chaos, whether it's war or anything else, there's always great profits to be made.
Right.
And so capitalism thrives on chaos. When people are organized, you know, into collectives and other things, you know, socialism, there's not as much profit to be made. You know, when there's nationalized health care or something, that's like the opposite of chaos, right? Everybody gets to go to the doctor.
Right.
You know, it's not going to be as much profits for the ones that, you know, suck the profit out of people.
You know what's interesting, Tori? I want to interrupt you for 1 second, because, you know, people look at the scam really is that somehow, unless you have massive profits on one side, that people don't innovate, right? And that you need to inherently work on our own greed to make the community go forward. What I don't understand, right, is how do we support something that most of us can't take advantage of? So they may say, okay, capitalism in true built all those skyscrapers in downtown Houston. It's true. All those skyscrapers in New York. But if most people cannot partake of that small amount of success that capitalism breeds, then it's not for most people, right?
Yeah. The point I wanted to make was how this relates to the historical and anthropological aspects of this principle of capitalism, supply and demand. You know, there used to be a lot of shortages. And so capitalism, you know, made a lot more sense back when, you know, the world was full of shortages and people were dying every day for lack of things. And now with, you know, modern technology and production, there's an excess of productive capacity, plus, you know, there's an excess of wealth.
Right.
In Japan, for instance, you know, the billionaire class no longer makes money by putting their money in the banks. You know, the Japanese banks are starting to charge people to park their billions of dollars.
Right.
And so you see capitalists all over the world parking their money anywhere they can. And so it's a way of taking the excess capital out of the economic system, thereby creating an artificial shortage. You know, it started with the industrial capacity with farms, you know, 50, 60, 70 years ago.
As you could produce more,
When, you know, the government was paying people to not plant crops because of the, you know, there wouldn't be a profit made for the people that were planting crops unless there's an artificial shortage. And so what we're seeing now is like a scramble for chaos. And Donald Trump represents that. You know, anything that can throw chaos into the system is going to help the bottom line for the rich people, for the capital.
I just want to say one thing, though, add to that, okay, and Therese, and that is supply and demand doesn't need capitalism to be the governing economic model at all. You can have supply and demand to control for scarcity, and it doesn't have to be capitalism. Capitalism includes creating a corporate structure governed by stocks and so forth, who people own and make monies off of by doing absolutely nothing. And what people like to say is, well, they're risking their capital, without ever saying, well, the workers are risking their life and limb. You know, I mean, we capitalism had in the form that we practice is so dangerous to the average person, but, you know, because of the good propaganda that we have out here, nobody really knows. Thank you so kindly for calling, Tori.
Okay.
You have a wonderful day. All right.
Good one.
Let's go to, let's see, Scott. Come on in, Scott.
Thank you. You were talking about the Democratic establishment in New Jersey.
Yes.
Is Senator Menendez part of the establishment?
Of course he is.
Okay. He won the primary. He had been prosecuted on corruption charges of some sort. He got acquitted. If I were in New Jersey, I would be rather suspicious of him and could very well vote against him.
Right.
But I would want to know a bit more about him than I do as a Texan.
Right.
You know,
I tell you what, the funny thing about it, Scott, is I don't care about Menendez's personal life. I don't care about some of the stuff that I think he was entrapped in for what he was convicted in.
Oh.
I care more about how he votes and how he protects drug companies and how he does those things. I mean, I have a website called faileddemocrats.com, right? And the idea is to expose these guys that, and, you know, I haven't updated it recently. I have a new update. Sweeney is going to be the new guy today. But I mean, we have to start calling these folks out. We know what the Republican establishment does. We can't allow the Democratic establishment to continue to fool most Americans. Continue.
Okay, now to Houston. Are Al Green and Kevin Brady two rails of the same track?
That's difficult because I know Al Green, and Al Green is one of the most progressive Congress people that we have.
He's campaigned to impeach Trump.
Right.
Yep.
Right, and not only that, you see, remember there's a group called the Progressive Caucus, okay?
Yeah.
And it's run by Grijalda and what's his name?
Grijalda of Arizona.
Yes, from Arizona, and he's all. I don't remember the other guy's name. He's a Muslim. One of the two Muslim Congress people. It's run by both of them. In fact, I met both of them at last Netroots. These guys have something called the progressive budget. Okay, it's the budget that it is the most honest budget, and it balances that you could find. And you know who gives it no credit? The media never shows it. Every year that it comes out, whenever the progressive budget comes out, I make sure to get that budget online just so people can see how a budget could look like if it wasn't just there to protect the wealthy.
And I don't see many people on Facebook publicizing what members of the good, best, better members of Congress do.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot more criticism of nameless Democrats.
You know something. I think you just hit a nail on the head, Scott. We also need to do that. I think you're right about that. Yeah. I think we need to do both. We need to go ahead and put those people that are hardworking, real progressives, and start giving them, putting some more memes out there for them, et cetera, et cetera. I got to go to some other calls, my dear friends. So look, thank you so kindly for calling in. Okay, you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Okay, Johnny, talk to me, my brother.
Hey, remember George Carlin, the deceased?
Of course. Hold on a second. Johnny. I love you, brother.
The great sound effect of a bat hitting a ball. Can you imagine that? You remember that sound?
Yes.
Okay, imagine that. That was Don earlier hitting it out of the park. Sorry, I don't have sound effects, Don.
You heard that, Don?
Anyway, so your point earlier about one of the failings, about the many failings of the
tax cut
mainstream corporate-friendly Democratic leadership.
Oh, yes.
One of the things that irritates me, and I know I'm not the only one, is when you have make-believe Democrats like Joe Manchin, the former governor of West Virginia or Kentucky, or one of them coal states. You know, he talks and acts on TV like a damn Republican. And Allison London Grimes in Kentucky, when she was running for the Senate against Mr. Berger, you know, from that movie.
Yes, she couldn't even say she voted for Obama.
Yeah, no, well, forget that. What about the visual of her? And she was wearing a leather jacket and she brandished a rifle and she's shooting in the field. I guess that's some legislation or something.
Yes.
I hate when they kiss up visually to Republicans. They must think very lowly of Republicans that they're so easily swayed and so easily offended and so fragile in their thinking that they can do that instead of talking basic issues that everyone is interested in. How about pocket? You know, your pocket issues, your money. Everyone's interested in that. Remember George Bush Sr. Read my lips, no new taxes, and what happened?
He raised it.
One-termer.
But, you know,
be prudent.
Let me tell you something. First of all, folks, we have open lines now, 713-526-5738. Lines wide open, 713-526-5738 if you want to add to the discourse, 713-526-5738. Hey, let me tell you something, Johnny. What I've been trying to put on the minds of Democratic candidates, and one of the reasons most of the Democratic candidates, or what I like to say that I try to give most airtime to, is progressive candidates that work for Americans. If I say I bring on a progressive candidates, I can call him nonpartisan if I want to, because the values that he comes with are values that supports every single American, bar none. Okay, but anyhow, is that what you get is these Democrats that they say they want to fit their district, and to fit their district, they think they have to sound like Republican light. To which I say, what you've said, Republicans are intelligent as well. And if they can have the real thing, why would they go with
That's right.
the
Why
half
would
thing?
they want to vote for a Democrat who's pretending to be like a Republican?
Exactly.
Because in their point of view, and they're not wrong, is to think that, why would I vote for a phony?
Exactly. So
they
what?
Have a real thing, even though that real thing is really lying to them at the end.
What you have to do, people, is as follows. You have to go out there and sell your ideas and show how what I did with that woman that I spoke to in Starbucks yesterday, and I'm not going to get a chance to tell the story because we have 2 more lines coming in. But what I did is I went ahead and I made the case. I didn't try to let her look foolish, because there's no need to, right? What happens is her frame or the set of information that she was based her opinions on were faulty. All I had to do is first use our democratic establishment to show the symbiotic relationship between the charlatans, and then go ahead and make the case that appeals to not only Republicans, but Democrats alike. And she's not going to come out and say, oh, I've seen the light. She's not going to say that.
No,
But
it'll be at night when she's falling asleep and she's thinking about the events of the day.
Thank
then
you.
she might have her coming to Jesus moment.
And not only that, she probably can't tell her husband, right? But when
vice versa.
Or vice versa. But when she goes into that booth, she's gonna know. She is gonna know. Johnny, anything else you want to say real quickly?
Yeah, and a different way of looking at that phony baloney appeal that too many establishment Democrats do when they do their TV ads, which I have a big problem with Democrats. They spend all their money on TV ads, and I don't see them spending their time reaching out to people, their real base,
right,
talking leftist populism. They're afraid. They think they're going to be labeled as communist or socialist. But the problem is, meantime that they're pretending to act like a Republican, the Republicans see right through that and they vote for the other guy.
Absolutely.
They're also doing themselves double damage because we won't vote for them either.
Right.
So who's getting screwed?
Right. If you notice, that's what I said in the blog post. But anyway, thank you so kindly for calling, Johnny. You have a good one, my brother.
Genius Lex Company. Have a good day.
All right, brother. All right, let's go now to Eric, line numero uno. Come on in, Eric.
Yes, sir. I wanted to add something to the discussion. I think we have to realize it can be bad. I mean, when it's in its bad form, like you have here, which is more like fascism, what we find here, where corporations have too much influence on government.
Yes, sir.
But also, socialism can be bad if it goes to the extreme.
Absolutely.
Where you get like communism.
Look,
Stalin and Venezuela, they're over there eating zoo animals and stuff. I mean, it can get bad.
Eric, you're right. Eric, I don't think Johnny would argue with you. I won't argue with you. What you want, when we talk about capitalism, let me tell you what I tell people I want, and I think most Americans want and would live with. I don't even like to use the word capitalism. I like to use the word free enterprise. In other words, you are an able-bodied person that want to go out there and produce something. You should be free to go out there and produce whatever you want to produce. You should be able to sell it, and you should be able to get some sort of a profit. In order to maintain a level society, we the people have created the environment. We the people created an environment where you could do business. We the people created an environment where there is commerce. So therefore, we the people can then set the price, not set the price, but set taxes so that we can recover what we have invested into having you able to do your stuff. And it's a balancing act that you have to do. We also have to have basic, what is the word that I want to say? We basically want to say things like we want to have minimum standards. Everybody gets health care. Everybody gets a basic salary. People think, oh, that's going to make people lazy. I don't know.
Well, let me add something to what you're saying, because I think what you're saying is good. If free enterprise is what works.
Yes.
But if people have to, because I travel a lot. I think if people just got a fair wage around the world, that would solve, instead of taxing and putting the money, the government forcibly taking the money from working people and giving it to disadvantaged people. Suppose you paid people, say, for example, you travel to Mexico.
Yes.
You don't pay. Ford built a plant down there. They paid a guy $6 a day. If they paid him a fair wage, they wouldn't need to sneak over to America.
And
they
again,
would have, what they need there.
There's a lot. Look, let me tell you something, Eric. There's a lot of things we can do. But Eric, I'm running low on time, so I'm going to have to let you go on this one. I got to get to two people real quickly. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, brother. Okay, let's go to MOD. MOD, you got 30 seconds, brother.
Hello.
Talk to me. 30 seconds, MOD.
Oh, well, I'll say hi then.
Come on, say your piece real quick. Come on, you got better than that.
I think Troy hit the nail on the head. And, if you see how, the Bill Clinton became, the party became the new neocons when Bill Clinton removed, food, what's it called, welfare, and incorporate the prison system. Do you think it's possible that Trump's just here to finish the job?
Yes, that's definitely. But MOD, so I answered yes. I got to go get the last call before we close it down. You have a great one, and thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, brother. Okay, let's go to Johnny.
Yeah, I cannot disagree more strongly with that gentleman who brought up Venezuela as an example. There is no such thing as too much socialism leads to communism. They're two separate animals. He needs to look at what's going on in this country. We're trying to privatize the hell out of everything that used to be socialized.
Johnny, you mean you got two bites at the phone, Johnny?
Because you are saying that I would agree with him, and I don't agree.
No, Johnny, listen to me, my dear brother. I understand what he was saying. And then I got to cut pretty soon.
When you go to the veterinarian, he tells you to feed your sick dog rice.
Yes.
Well, how come we don't get rice throughout the year? If rice is good
I tell you what, Johnny, Johnny.
Socialism is brown rice.
All right, brother. We talk about that. To next week. Okay, I only have a few more seconds to close out my show. All right, folks. Let me tell you. We'll be back next week again. Remember, we also have Politics Done Right daily every day on Facebook Live and on Blog Talk Radio, on Coffee Party Network as well. And it's all tied in together. So remember to keep abreast of what's going on. If you want to hear the truth, check out Politics Done Right, because this is your show. It is absolutely your show. This is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know what I usually say? I have 4 seconds to say, I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.